We're gonna use the secret entrance. Housekeeping! There's nobody here. Guess I can just kind of poke around, take whatever I want, huh?
It's the fronts, and you'll have to notch this.
This piece?
Yeah.
Oh, hell.
To clear the control arm.
Can I notch the control arm instead?
Yep, that's what I did.
Don't let them.
That's a rear.
I can't just hit it with a hammer?
I mean, they will bend themselves, but don't. Not that. The last thing you want to do is.
How do you tell the front's from the rear? Oh, because of the
fronts
top,
have
right?
that thing, yeah. And the fronts are just a little bit longer.
Oh, so I'm going to be squatting in the
rears,
rear? Oh, okay.
The rears are longer, the fronts are shorter.
Oh, okay. I thought I was going to end up doing that Carolina squat.
Oh, we had one that was like that. It was that GTO. He put the shocks on the
Yeah, that's the one I delivered. These are going to make the car way faster. Mm-hmm. Especially in the turns, like in the school zones and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah.
That has some school zone.
Yeah, yeah. I'm be cornering like at least 15. Mm-hmm. The thing's gonna stick. What's up, YouTubers? Welcome back to my teeny tiny channel. Today, I'm working on the 308, and I'm installing some cool new QA1 coilovers that I got from my buddy Aaron up at ATS Racing in Denton. He knows these cars like the back of his hand, and he got me set up with what I need. So I'm gonna slide my quick jacks underneath the car, get it up in the air, get the wheels off, and I'll show you basically how to do this. Oh yeah, that's pretty stuff right there. That's gonna look good. All right, I gotta get the car up in the air, get these wheels off, and we'll see what we're working with. The end goal is to get this thing sitting just a little bit lower, just close that gap in the fender there, and it should have a really nice ride to it. You know, these cars, they sit so low, it's not like they ride like Cadillacs anyway, but with these coilovers, it should ride quite a bit better than factory. Because of the way this car is designed in the chassis, these quick jacks go under, and they do a pretty good job of lifting this car, but they're more towards the front of the car. So what I typically do is I add a jack here in the back just to stabilize it. I've worked on the car without that jack in the back there. Jack in the back. And it's fine, but you know, I'm a safety girl.
A buffet of safety.
I'm a safety girl.
All right, let's get these wheels popped off, and I'll show you what the stock stuff looks like, and then we'll get on to putting the cool stuff in. So I'm basically going into this project knowing absolutely nothing about what I'm doing or what's involved, and now that I have the wheels off, I can kind of get in here and take a look at what I'm dealing with. I think the backs aren't going to be too difficult. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. So let's see about the fronts. The fronts are, well, crappity crap. All right, I might have to rethink this for a second. So it looks like the front may be a little bit more accessible, a little bit easier to get to. That's where I'm gonna get started. So it looks like I've got to take this bolt out that runs through, and then there's a bolt up here. So I've got to compress this a little bit, probably put a floor jack underneath that, and we're just going to go for it. I got the first one out. This is the driver's side front, and there it is sitting over on the floor. Woohoo! Something I have already noticed. I compared the two together, and the QA1 coilover is already an inch shorter than the stock coilovers. And the other thing, I already knew that it needed to be notched a little bit. There is some interference with the upper control arm, and that's what I'm going to mark right now. You can kind of see where it's going to come down and hit the top of that right there. I've got the bolt going through, just kind of holding it in place. But I'm going to notch this section in here, so I'm going to mark it with a paint pen and then take it out. And I'm not going to remove any more material then I absolutely have to. It may take me a couple times to get it right, but that's fine. I'm just gonna take my time and just kind of test fit as I go. That way I just take off what's actually needed. Let's also talk about the bolts that hold these things in. So I had to undo the top section, these two bolts. They came off pretty easy. This one down here that came through the stabilizer bar, which is up out of the way, and through the shock mount, it was real tight right here. So I had a 6-point socket. I actually had to hammer it on there. I had to turn this bolt a little bit so that I could get the nut to give me some space on the bottom here, and then I had to hammer that on. After I got it loose, came off no problem. So far so good. That's really the only issue I've run into with this project. And I pretty much foresee the front being the hardest part of it. The rear doesn't look that bad, but I'll let you know when I get there. I have finished the driver's side front. It's kind of taken me forever because I had quite a bit to kind of figure out, and I had to take the coilover in and out a few times, but here's what it looks like. So it's in. You want to make sure that you have that little adjustment. Where is it? Right here. You want to have that kind of facing out towards the wheel. That way you can get in and adjust it. I actually had this backwards for a second, so I had to switch that. You will need to notch. I went ahead and notched the top portion of the coilover mount, and I also notched my A-arm just a little bit. I wasn't going to notch both at first, but after getting in there and playing with it, it just worked out better for me. I mean, this is pretty thick stuff, so you're not gonna hurt it by notching it just ever so slightly like that. But there's what it looks like. This is the driver's side. And I had to add a washer on this side and this side of the bushing. And then down here, I only had room for one washer, so I put it right on this side right here. You can see that silver washer. So it's Easter Sunday, and I went to the hardware store to get more washers, and of course they're closed. I didn't really think that through. We're going to pick this video up in just a second when I am more prepared with washers to complete the rest of this project. Not long ago, I was called out by the boys over there at Zero to Awesome, and apparently I committed a pickleable offense by not showing the T-Bird when I first got it and making people wait.
A few weeks ago, our good friend is now a loose term because of what he did him. There's a good chance he's watching right now. But then I also have another pickle beer here for Mr. Nobody. Next time we see him, this is the spicy pickle beer. This one's gonna be waiting for you. We're gonna put it out in the sun, extra hot.
I didn't really think that was quite the beerable offense. If anything, maybe this was by starting this project on Easter Sunday and not having everything I needed, so I was unprepared. Either way, I have to go over there at some point and drink this pickle beer, which I hear is absolutely awful. Can't really say I'm looking forward to that. Well, looking forward to hanging out with those guys, but not so much drinking the pickle beer. So that'll be a horrible experience. I started working on the rear today. Now that I have all my washers, I probably took this apart completely wrong and probably took more off than I really needed to. So I'm basically learning on this side what not to do on the other side. Here it is. I got it out. It's a big old sucker too. This is probably wrong, but let's see. I ended up taking, well, I pulled the bottom bolt out first, which I realize now I should not have done. I should have just taken this out and then kind of pivoted this on that bottom bolt. But right now I actually have both of them out. And then the top shock mount bolt and the lower shock mount bolt, obviously. I left my brake cable connected. I didn't actually notice it until I was already kind of deep into this, but so far it seems to work. Oh, and I had to pull this little bracket off of my sway bar back here. Going back in should be a whole lot easier because the new one, I believe, is going to be shorter, but I'll find out in just a second. The new one is a little bit shorter. That should go in a whole lot easier. And I'm just going to run these all at about, halfway compressed and halfway on, I think that's the rebound. I'm not sure, I'll have to read through some instructions here, but this I think goes to 12 clicks. I put it at 6 in the front. I'll do the same in the rear and just kind of let everything settle for a while before I start monkeying with that. When you're putting this back together, this is the top part of the top A-arm, but hub assembly, whatever you want to call it, spindle. There's this washer that goes in here and it's got this little hole and it goes right there. Well, all I've done is put a little bit of grease on this. That way, when I stick this on there, it should hold. So just a little trick to help you, because this is going to be pretty tight sliding this up and you don't want this thing to go off. There's also a rubber piece that goes over, and then you've got the other half, which is this piece that's going to go on, and it just kind of sandwiches everything together and it looks like this. So this goes like that and then slips over. Rear driver's side is complete. Let's talk about a couple things here. I mean, it looks super sharp. It actually went in very easy because this whole assembly is shorter than the stock one that came out. Now, here's what I took apart, and here's what you need to take apart and what you don't. So you're gonna wanna take this off. This was a 19 millimeter, this is a 17 millimeter. You gotta kinda finagle this down so you can kinda get a little bit of a room to wiggle this off this way and this off this way. Just play with it, it'll come apart. You're gonna take off this top one right here for the shock mount. That's your coilover mount right there. You're gonna take this bolt out of the top. Do not take the bottom one. Leave this in there, because you should be able to just tilt this thing out enough and kind of put some pressure on it to pull the shock out from the bottom. Once it's loose on the top and the bottom, you can pull it out this way. Your car may be different, but on my car, I could not take it out from the top. The old one was really wide. You know, it came out to here. It was hitting this line, so there's no way it was going to come up through the top. On top, you need to undo your coolant tank and just kind of, you know, play with it a little bit, get it out of the way. But once you have the bottom of the new coilover attached, you can jack up that A-arm and this will slip right into place. You can see I had to add one washer here. Down here, I actually added one washer on either side. These are 7/16 washers, fender washers, I believe. So they're pretty big around, but 7/16 diameter in the middle for that bolt. 1/2 inch will work, but it's going to be a little bit loose. So as you're tightening the bolt, it may slide. I mean, it's not going anywhere, but get 7/16. This is the side that's complete. So let's see what our change was. Up front, went from 26 1/8 to 25 3/4. So we changed just about a 3/8 of an inch so far. And this still needs to kind of settle. Same with the back, let's see. Went from 26 3/4 to 25 7/8. So we're down 7/8 of an inch. Again, these both need to settle, so I'm gonna drive it like this, and we are kind of halfway as far as adjustment on each, well, we're gonna be halfway on each corner right now. I'm just halfway on this side because that's all I've gotten done. I already see a difference. She's looking good. Just about got the passenger side rear buttoned up. Let me show you what it's like on this side with the air box. So you got to take the air filter and that assembly out, and just a couple things to kind of watch out for when you do this. There's a clamp that goes around this and it will cinch this down to this. Mine's just laying on the table because I got to get it cleaned up. But when you undo this bolt and you get the original one loose and everything, it's a little tricky because it's going to want to rub up against this hose and this part of the frame right here. So you just got to kind of push down and kind of push it that way. Be very careful of your lines because mine are old plastic and I just need to be very careful because I don't want anything to happen to them. I don't know if these have ever been replaced, but I certainly don't want to crack one of them. So just be mindful of that. You can kind of just set this over here. It's got a hose connected to the bottom here. Just kind of set it out of your way. But be very careful. You can get this out with no problems. This side actually came out much easier than the other side. Again, you're only going to take out this top bolt here, obviously the mount bolt. You're going to take this piece off of your sway bar, and you have enough room to kind of finagle this thing and get that original one out. Going back in, super easy because that thing is way shorter than the original and it looks so much better. Now, I put my little control, let's see, knob to the inside over here. You can see that. I think it actually does touch this if you try to put it this way, so just know that your little control knob is going to face inside towards the motor. We are done. I just got to put this wheel back on, but here is the front passenger side. Oh, nice and pretty. Look at that. Don't forget, you do have to notch. I just notched part of the A-arm and part of the shock tower mount, or shock mount, I guess. Rather than doing just one a lot, I did both a little. So you only have to take about 1/4 of an inch off the actual A-arm piece and about 1/8 of an inch filed into the top of the shock mount there. This project took me, let's see, about 3 hours today, probably a good 2 to 3 hours the last, total times that I've been working on this. So about 6 hours, and that's basically because I had no idea what I was doing. So I kind of had to learn quite a bit. But now that I've done it and showed you what to do, you should be able to knock this out quick. Overall, I'm very happy with the look of this car, especially sitting the way it is. I can definitely tell a difference. And over time, as I drive it and the shocks everything settles where it needs to be, I'll bring it back in, I don't know, probably a couple weeks or so, see if I can't put a couple 100 miles on it, and then remeasure all 4 corners and adjust accordingly. We'll see how the ride goes. I'm optimistic that it's going to be pretty darn comfortable. So big shout out to Aaron at ATS Racing for hooking me up with the full set of coilovers here. And if you're doing this project at home, get out there, get wrenching. You can do it in your garage with, basic hand tools pretty much. And you don't even need a little lift. I didn't even use my quick jack on the last 3. So just put a floor jack underneath there and support it really well and get after it and get her done. Until next time and something else breaks or I need to improve upon something else. Thanks for watching. Stay hungry. Stay foolish.